Welcome back to the dojo, guys. It's time to talk about another anime. Let's get into it. Do you remember the 90s? Do you remember the early 2000s? Do you remember the anime that you saw? If you do, if you were around during that time, you might remember a cartoon block that came on Cartoon Network called Toonami. No. This is not a Toonami video. We're going to be talking about an anime that premiered on Toonami. In 2001, Toonami premiered a show called Outlaw Star. Starting to come back to you now? Do you remember Outlaw Star? Do you remember going on adventures with Gene Starwind and his crew of bounty hunters aboard the Outlaw Star? I bet you do now. Well, if you don't, then come aboard the Outlaw Star with me, and let's go have an adventure. Let's get into it. Outlaw Star premiered on Toonami January 15th, 2001. It was part of the Toonami afternoon block. At one time, it also ran on the midnight run. Outlaw Star would join such shows like Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, Ronin Warriors, and others. Gene Starwind is the main character in Outlaw Star. Or I should say, one of the main characters in Outlaw Star. Outlaw Star follows Gene Starwind and his crew as they traverse the galaxy aboard their ship. There will be spoilers, but let's enjoy the ride. Outlaw Star takes place in the distant future. Mankind at this point has already reached the outer limits of outer space, the outer frontier. In this era, outer space is like the Wild West. You could say that Outlaw Star is like a space western. It was one of the big three that came out in 1998 on Tokyo TV. Big three. You might be asking yourself, what big three? Yes, there was a big three back then in the 90s. Two of them you already know. Cowboy Bebop was one, and Trigun was another. You could say it was a trilogy of sci-fi / space westerns in anime. While Cowboy Bebop, many of you have probably seen millions of times, and Trigun is only second to it, I like to think that Outlaw Star has its fans and has its respect, but I feel like it's been passed over. And I'm so thankful to Toonami for premiering it, because if Toonami hadn't had it on its blocks, Outlaw Star might not be as well known as it is today. Let's get into the story. I want to say that we meet the first three core characters of Outlaw Star in the first episode. Excuse me if I pause for a long time. Got to remember these things, you know. We start off in outer space. A ship that we don't know is being chased by space pirates. We know the pilot's name, Hot Eyes Hilda. We know that she's trying to get away from these space pirates, but we don't know why. A short space battle ensues, as the pirates try to chase her, but she manages to escape and flees to a planet called Sentinel 3. On Sentinel 3, which is very much Earth like, populated by humans, and is somewhat of a resemblance to Earth, except it's Earth, but it has a ring around it. So you could say maybe a mixture of Earth and Saturn in our solar system. We then go to a tavern deep in the heart of the city. In this tavern, a criminal goes in asking for a name: Gene Starwind. The bartender asks, "What do you want with him?" The criminal continues, saying, "I heard Gene was a regular here." Bartender replies, "Could say that." Little does the criminal know that Gene is in that tavern at that moment. He's playing poker over in the corner with his buddy. Yeah, isn't that cool? We meet Gene in the first few minutes of the episode. Hold on, because we're going to meet another character with him. The friend that he's playing poker with is his friend Jim Hawking. Jim is a whiz and an expert at computers. His father was a hacker, but we'll get into more of that later. Gene, over listening and hearing the conversation with the bartender, says, "I gotta call the game, Jim. Somebody's looking for me." The criminal that's asking about Gene happens to be the brother of another criminal that Gene collected a bounty on. His brother has come for revenge. Safe to say it doesn't go very well for the criminal because Gene beats him. Doesn't kill him, but beats him. And he's arrested and taken to jail. Remember the pirate? Remember the outlaw that got away? Hot Eyes Hilda? She happens to be watching in the crowd. The scene then cuts to Gene and Jim walking down the city street, trying to decide on how they're going to spend their earnings for the night. As they consider what they're going to do, both of them look up at the sky, the night sky, outer space. Both of them wonder what the future has in store for them. Will they be able to see the galaxy one day? Will they stay on their planet of Sentinel 3? Where will they go? What will they do? That's the future. As far as the present time is concerned, Gene wants to go have fun and spend his earnings the only way he knows how. I'll leave that up to your imagination. The next morning, Jim informs Gene that a pirate ship was seen landing on Sentinel 3 last night. Nobody knows why. It's important to mention that Jim and Gene have their own company, Starwind and Hawking Industries. Gene and Jim basically do odd jobs for their customers. They'll take any job. Bounty hunting is something they do on the side. But for the most part, They try to make an honest living and do odd jobs when they can. On this particular occasion, the customer that they happen to get for the day is Hot Eyes Hilda in disguise. She calls her name, she uses a fake name, Rachel, and says that she needs a bodyguard while she's in town. Jean takes the job, not knowing why she needs a bodyguard. But they take it anyway because they both need the money. They come to find out that she's being chased by the pirates. Yep, they followed her all the way to Sentinel 3, and they know who she is. A high-speed chase ensues between the pirates, Jean, Jim, and Rachel. Excuse me, Hot Eyes Hilda, who has now taken off her disguise and revealed herself to both of them. She explains that she's being chased by pirates because she stole something of theirs, and they want it back. That she is their enemy, and she's only getting back at them because they took something from her left arm and her right eye. This isn't the first time that she's encountered them. As Jim manages to repair and fix her arm, she turns and tries to betray them, but it doesn't work. Jean is onto her and asks her what kind of treasure did she steal and why are they after her. Hilda says, "Why don't you look for yourself?" And they do. The treasure that Hilda stole from them is a girl. Remember I said that we were going to meet our 3 core characters in the first episode? This is the main girl, or the 3rd main core character. Her name is Malfina. She's a bioandroid, and she doesn't know what her purpose is yet. When she first wakes up out of a cryogenic stasis, frozen sleep, she names something called the Key Lime Project. No, not the fruit, key lime. It's a project. We'll get to that because that's very, very important. The pirates manage to catch up with them again and find them in the storage unit. A battle ensues as Jean tries to hold the pirates off while Jim and Hilda go to grab Hilda's ship. After making it aboard Hilda's ship, they manage to escape the pirates. They go to an asteroid colony called Blue Heaven. They meet up with some other characters like Swanzo and his pit crew team to repair Hilda's ship, which is now called Horus. As they're docked at Blue Heaven, they're trying to recruit others to help Hilda. Hilda has somewhat of a reputation, and so a lot of people are willing to work with her, but they don't like her. There's been numerous attempts on Hilda's life, and each time she's managed to get away. Anyway, moving on. Excuse me. They're forced to leave Blue Heaven because some mercenaries want to get their hands on Hilda and Malfina. It's revealed later that they were hired by the pirates and that the pirates were willing to pay a lot of money if they could capture Hilda. Safe to say, that doesn't work out too well, and Hilda manages to escape. While she's making her escape, we meet another character who will later join Jean's crew, Asia Clan, planet potentiary of the Kataral Empire. The Kataral are a race of people who can metamorph. They can turn from human to an animal. And they have ferocious, monstrous power. They are very proud of their heritage. And they're very, very with the attitude and idea that they are the greatest power in the universe. They barely managed to escape from Blue Heaven and the Kataral Empire. As they travel through deep space, we learn more about Jean's history. Earlier in episode 1, we hear Jean say that he's never been to space. And he's never had a ship to call his very own. We learn that his father had a ship. His father was killed when their ship was attacked by pirates. Now, they're not the same pirates that are chasing Hilda. No, these are different. In an effort to save his son, Jean's father puts his son in an escape pod. And his father sacrifices himself. This causes Jean to have somewhat of PTSD being on a spaceship, because he fears that if he's on a ship and it's not solid, there's a good chance he might not come back. He has a fear. Eventually, the pirates manage to catch up with Hilda and the crew. A somewhat short space battle ensues, and Hilda and the crew manage to get away. However, the pirates manage to track Hilda, put a tracer on her ship. Now, there's something special about these pirates, and I want to go into that a little bit later. Right now, I just want to give you guys the main story. We'll get all to the other stuff later. They head towards a star called Farfallas. In this star, Hilda says that there's a ship that's hidden, that no one knows about it except her. She's here to retrieve it. This ship is called the XGP 15A2. It would later be called the OUTLAW STAR. The pirates managed to catch up with the crew. And now, it's a race against the clock, not only to protect the Outlaw Star and Malfina, and to escape from the pirates. However, Hilda manages to hold the pirates off long enough so that Jean and the others can get away. However, she doesn't make it. She sacrifices herself so that the crew is able to escape from the pirates. It is after this, after her noble sacrifice, that Jean decides to call the name Outlaw Star in her memory. From here, the story gets a little bit slow. It's a slow burn through the series, and that's the important thing that I want to bring up. A lot of adventures happen for our three main characters. Other characters join up. For instance, as I mentioned, Asia Clan, who is looking for Hilda to ask her the coordinates of the galactic ley line. Jean has to tell her that Hot Eyes Hilda is dead. You see, Asia was stuck on Blue Heaven because the Kataro found out that she let Hilda escape. As punishment, she was forced to stay on Blue Heaven and await for Hilda's return. Jean informs her that Hilda has died and that he doesn't know anything about the galactic ley line. Legend speaks of the galactic ley line holding the most powerful force in the universe. It has the power to grant any wish, anything that your heart desires. This is important to remember. As they're trying to figure out what to do next, Jean gets the idea to go back to Sentinel 3. The Outlaw Star needs to be outfitted with weapons and equipment, and he knows a broker that can do it. We meet Fred Lowe back on Sentinel 3. Fred is a friend of Jean, and Jean decides that he wants to do business with Fred Lowe. However, Jean realizes that he doesn't have enough money to pay Fred, and it looks like that he might not get the stuff that he needs. However, this is where we meet our next character, Twilight Suzuka. Twilight Suzuka, in her own way, if you want to think about it, is an assassin. But not only is she an assassin, but she is what I would like to think a traditional samurai warrior. Instead of a real samurai sword, she carries a wooden one. Again, that's important to remember as well. She's very skilled, and she's called Twilight Suzuka because she kills after the sun goes down. Someone has taken out a contract on Fred's life. Jean makes a deal with Fred. Because Fred asks Jean to protect him, Jean agrees to protect him if Fred will get him the weapons and equipment that Jean needs for the Outlaw Star. Fred agrees. And while Jean is being Fred's bodyguard, Suzuka goes after him instead. In a duel, in a battle of wits, Jean manages to outsmart Suzuka and tells her that if you will allow it, let me be your target. I can't stay here and protect Fred all the time. So, if you want to kill someone, guess you're going to have to kill me because I've injured your pride and I've stopped you from completing your contract. Suzuka agrees. But not only that, she finds him interesting because he's not afraid to die. Jean is not afraid to put his life on the line to protect those he cares about. It's true. So she is enamored and she wants to learn more about Jean, and I would say see what makes him tick. Episode 7. Jean and Jim are back to their old ways of trying to make an honest living because they have to pay parking fees for the Outlaw Star. And that's what I love about this anime is yes, even though this is a space western sci-fi show, but it's also kind of a slice of life as well. It's about the main characters making their way through life, trying to earn enough money as they can to go do what they want to do or do the things that they have to do. All in the while, still keeping in mind that The pirates are still after Malfina and the Outlaw Star and keeping that safe. There's an episode where, or I should say a few episodes, excuse me, where the Outlaw Star takes place in a space race because the money is a huge reward that they could use. And along the way, we learn more and more about the galactic ley line. We learn more and more about mysticism and mythos. And it's a very fun and nostalgic anime and a feel good anime for me, as I've stated. But there's something important about Outlaw Star that I want to bring up. At the end of the anime, we learn more about the galactic ley line. We learn more about Malfina. There's a lot of interesting characters that we also learn about along the way. The McDougal brothers, the On-10 7, Hazanko, who's a pirate captain, and what his aim for the galactic ley line is. Gwen Con, who was an instrument in creating the Outlaw Star, just so his vested interest could be achieved, which is to learn everything in the universe, and many playable characters. But I could go into all of that. But Outlaw Star is not about the story itself or about getting to the destination of the galactic ley line. Outlaw Stars is about the journey getting to the ley line. It's about what do you have to do to get there, to achieve your dream. What do you have to do? What length are you willing to go? There's an episode 15, in where Gene is questioning whether or not he's doing the right thing. They've been doing jobs on the side, whether it be odd jobs, whether it be participating in the space race. But he feels like he's letting his friends down. He feels like he's letting Malfina down. He promised to protect her. And through the whole series, each character has their own moments. There's even a point where even Jim has a moment of where he's never fallen in love with a girl before, and he doesn't know what to do. Little does he know that the girl that he's fallen in love with is actually his enemy, trying to kill Gene, take Malfina and the Outlaw Star. And kind of him and Gene get into a big fight. But at the end, they're still friends. Suzuka and Asia play a big part as well. Suzuka, we find out that the reason why she became an assassin was to hunt down the person who killed her family. Asia Clan, who originally was doing this for the love of her people only so that she could go home and do something right for her people, now has come to respect Gene and Jim. And you could even say that Jim is like a little brother to her. And they do fight like brother and sister. But she's always willing to protect them both, and Malfina. And they all manage to come together as a crew. And spoilers, yeah, Gene and Malfina totally get together. It's revealed that Malfina is the maiden of the ley line, designed to lead those who seek the ley line to the Holy Grail, or the galactic ley line. Once her purpose is fulfilled, the ley line disappears. But you could say her inner self, her human side, her human personality shines through and tells Malfina, you're free to go and do what you want now. You no longer are bound to be the maiden of the ley line. Go and live your life. You have found what you were seeking. You have found acceptance. For the longest time, Malfina didn't know where she belonged. And even though Jean and Jim promised her that they would help her find her past, to her, Malfina felt like they had forgotten their promise. But they never did. It just took them a while to get there. And that's the important message that Outlaw Star conveys. Have faith. I remember Toonami once did a video called Broken Dreams. Or was it Broken Promise? It was an Outlaw Star bump. Granted, it was mixed in with a little bit of Dragon Ball Z clips and some Tenchi Universe clips. But for the most part, it was all about Outlaw Star. I remember they had the narrator from Outlaw Star who was the voice of Jet from Cowboy Bebop. And they mixed his voice in with with the clips as well. The quotes are as follows. A boy has the right to dream. There are endless possibilities stretched out before him. What awaits him down the path, he will then have to choose. Children leave their homes in search of this quest. As they search, they are always asking questions. What's out there? What's waiting for them? The video concludes by saying this. Believe in yourself and create your own destiny. Don't fear failure. The mysticism that's in Outlaw Star coincides with what I just said. There are many martial arts undertones in this series. And remember I said there was a little bit of a Star Wars vibe to it? Let's take a character like Twilight Suzuka. I said I would revisit her. I said she was like a true samurai, except she carries a wooden sword. Because she carries a wooden sword because she puts all of her energy, all of her belief, all of her faith into that sword. In Japanese tradition, a samurai's sword is where his heart is where his soul is. If the blade is tough, then that means the warrior is that tough, is strong. There's also some undertones talking about Taoism and Chinese traditions. There are many cultures mixed into Outlaw Star, and that's what I love about it. There's a bunch of diversity with different aliens, and I feel included. I feel part of the story when I watch it. And it doesn't matter if you're a main character or not. What matters is that you are in a world where bounty hunters, outlaws, space forces, pirates, normal people, aliens can all reside. Outlaw Star is about a journey, not the destination. Outlaw Star is about having the patience to walk the path of said journey. That no matter what the future holds, no matter where the path leads you, eventually you will reach your destination. Life itself is a journey. So enjoy it. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy the time that you have. And don't worry if you make it big or not. If you have a dream, shoot for it. Don't let anybody tell you different. Follow your heart. Follow your faith. Follow your dreams. Create your own destiny. And don't fear failure. Thank you guys. Minasan, arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all loved this video. I loved making it. I love talking about it. And this is my second video. And I look forward to doing more videos to come. Until I see you guys next time, stay gold.